return to glory, or make their mark on volleyball. This is a tournament you won't want to miss. The Champions League group stage starts Tuesday, November 30th.
Let me know. Okay, let me know if everyone can hear me now. Welcome to the European Volleyball Show, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rob St. Clair. Very excited to bring you this match this week. Warszawa versus Ziraat Bankasi Ankara. Super match of the week this Wednesday. I will be hopping over after this one to commentate the match, so I'm very excited about that. Match starts in just about 45 minutes live here on the YouTube channel. So let me know in the chat if you have any questions. We'll get into previewing both teams, talk a little bit about what's going on elsewhere around Champions League. But yeah, big Q&A session, Q&A emphasis on this match right here. So let me know in the chat where you're watching from if you have any questions about these two teams. So let's hop right into it, shall we? Starting off, looking at Projekt Warszawa. We talked about them a lot 2 weeks ago when I had Salvador Hidalgo on the show. Very cool guest to have breaking down Warszawa's first match in Champions League. They lost 3-2 to Dinamo Moscow in a pretty crazy match. They went up 2-0 and then lost the remaining 3. They got reverse swept. A very interesting one there. We will get into some of the stats about that. One interesting thing there. So you got the projected starters there on the screen. We talked about 2 weeks ago that Warszawa's got some options of both setter and opposite. We thought we might see Jay Blankenau, the Canadian setter. We thought we might see Dusan Petkovic, Serbian opposite. Instead, it was Angel Trinidad and Michal Superlak. Actually, in such a way that Jay Blankenau and Dusan Petkovic didn't even make the trip to Moscow last time for Champions League. So I'm expecting to see both those guys at least on the roster this time, Warszawa playing at home in Poland. But what was interesting about that last match that Warszawa played, like we know what their starting lineup's going to be. They've got two of the best middles in the world, an elite Polish libero, Damian Wojtaszek, Bartosz Kwolek, Igor Grabelny on the left. And I do expect to see Angel Trinidad, Michal Superlak again at setter and opposite. But just looking at their stats from that match against Dinamo Moscow, again, they went up 2-0. And the difference really was serving and blocking in those first 2 sets. They had 3 aces and 6 blocks combined in the first 2 sets, 0 aces, 3 blocks combined in the remaining 3, all of which Warszawa lost. Now, a big thing, though, is, as you might know about the standings, is Warszawa did take 2 sets. Therefore, they grab 1 point in the standings. So they have 1 point rather than 0, despite the fact that they lost their first match. Here, check out the pool standings here in Pool B as of right now. So Warszawa sitting in 3rd. Ankara, their opponent, sitting in 2nd, having won their first match 3-0 against Maaseik from Belgium. And Dinamo Moscow playing yesterday, beating Maaseik 3-0. So Dinamo Moscow sitting pretty comfortably in 1st place in the standings for Pool B right now. Question: which of these teams has the best ability to turn great defensive plays into viable attack? That tends to be the deciding factor between 2 high-quality teams. A great question from my former high school coach, Steve Rushan. Very good question, and I will get to that in a second. I got to preview the first 2 teams first. So back to Warszawa to wrap this up really quickly. They are in a comfortable 3rd place in the Plusliga right now, 3rd place in the Plusliga finishing last season. And looking back to last year's Champions League, which they participated in, they barely missed out on advancing to the quarterfinals. They were in one of those crazy pools and actually came down to a tie in wins, points, and set ratio. It actually came down to literal point ratio, which they missed out on by just a couple points. So that was crazy for Warszawa. Not a bad start with them against Dinamo Moscow a couple weeks ago, but I know that they are wishing they could have grabbed a win in that match on the road after going up 2-0. Okay, looking at Ziraat Bankasi Ankara, a very interesting team. The top of the Turkish FLR League is very, very competitive. Ziraat Bankasi right now, 10-2, 30 points in third place. They are the reigning champions of the Turkish league, winning the league last year. And last year they were the runners-up in the CEV Challenge Cup, losing to Milano in the finals there. But a big elevation in their European competition. Challenge Cup and Challenge Cup, a very good competition. Champions League is definitely a different beast. So they had a good start 2 weeks ago, like I mentioned, beating Masek 3-0. We mostly know who their projected starters are going to be. Arslan Ekşi, elite Turkish setter, probably the best Turkish-born setter playing right now. Interesting duo of outside hitters, Martina Tanasov from Bulgaria in his second season in Turkey for the same club, and Oriol Camejo coming over in the offseason as part of a very interesting triangle of outside hitter transfers. So this is a kind of an interesting storyline in the offseason because Ankara thought that they were going to have Trevor Kleveno, a French Olympic gold medalist, but then as Jastrzębski Węgiel, another Polish Champions League competitor, they thought they were going to get Tine Urnaut. And then Zenit St. Petersburg had Zenit St. Petersburg from Russia, another Champions League competitor, had Oriol Camejo last year. So those three players and those three clubs basically rotated in a circle sort of fashion. So Camejo came over from St. Petersburg to Ankara. Ankara thought they were going to get Kleveno. Kleveno instead going to Jastrzębski. Jastrzębski thought they were going to have Tine Urnaut. Instead, Urnaut goes to Zenit St. Petersburg. So an interesting triangle of outside hitter transfers in the offseason for all three Champions League clubs playing in those three different countries. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Got to talk about Wouter Termat, a Dutch opposite, 30 years of age. He's just absolutely lighting it up and scoring in Turkey right now. You don't hear nearly as much from him in national team competition because there's a certain guy by the name of Nimir Abdelaziz that tends to play ahead of him. But Termat is a really good player and probably the most important offensive option for the Ziraat Bankasi squad. Looking at their win against Masek, Termat led the team in scoring, 20 points, one ace, 3 blocks, and 16 kills in only 3 sets. That's a pretty good output for a high-level opposite. Past that, there really wasn't that much going on for Ankara. Camejo, in particular, hit negative efficiency in that match against Masek against a slightly inferior block defensive opponent. So that is something I'm really interested to see against Warszawa today, given that their middle blocker presence is just so much better than almost every team in the world. Andre Vrona, Peter Nowakowski, two of the very best middle blockers in the world. And Ankara, conversely, two less experienced Turkish middle blockers in Bulbul and Gunesh. Good players, really good athletes, but not the level of experience, and especially in the blocking phase, as those two middle blockers from Warszawa. So got nice little preview there of the two teams. Let me look at the chat really quick for some questions. How's the Polish audience in matches like this? Great question. Home court advantage is a big deal this Champions League. It's coming back after we didn't see very many fans, if at any, last season at all. The home court atmospheres are returning to volleyball now as vaccinations for COVID are more available, which is great news because volleyball, as I've always said, is one of the great live in-person spectator experiences in all of sports. And in Poland and Turkey, both huge volleyball countries, but this match is in Warsaw. So the Warszawa will have home court advantage here with a huge home court presence. Their fans are tremendous. The capital city in Poland, I expect them to pack the house. And I think that will have a big effect on just the energy and the atmosphere in this match, which I'm really excited to get into. Because again, I'm hopping over after the end of the show to commentate this match, so I will get all the crowd noise piped straight into my ears to really influence the atmosphere. And that's a big deal for this Warszawa team. All Polish teams really, and Turkish teams both, really take a lot of energy from their home crowds. Who will be the most pivotal / risky position or player for each team? I think for Warszawa, it's got to be the middles. Vrona and Novakovsky's got to both have a big advantage over the Bankasa middles. I think that they are going to get involved a lot offensively. Let me look at Warszawa's offensive numbers against Dynamo Moscow 2 weeks ago. Like that's an indicative matchup too, because Warszawa, good middles, but Dynamo Moscow, just classic Russian super size across the board, just massive players at all 5 hitting blocking positions. So let's see, middle attack. Andre Vrona, 8 for 10 with only 1 error in that match. Really good. Peter Novakovsky, 5 for 12 with 4 errors. Much less good. You expect higher efficiency out of him there. But again, this is a different matchup. I think those Dynamo Moscow middle blockers had a lot of influence over those stats. And I think Warszaw's middles are a huge key this time around if they can pass the ball well enough. Another thing about that Dynamo Moscow matchup, let's see, how many aces did Moscow have late? 3 in set 5 alone in that match, which is crazy. So Warszaw's got to hang in there and control the ball in the first contact if they want those middles to be a part of the offense, which I really think is important for them. Conversely, for Ankara, I think it's Wojtek Termat all day. He is the guy that scores in volume for them. And Warsaw, a good serving team. I wouldn't say an elite serving team. But especially if Camejo's not able to hit with pretty good efficiency, Termat's going to have to score on high volume and good enough efficiency for Ziraat Bankasi to hang around. So I think he's definitely the pivotal position for them. And there's nobody I trust more to run an offense and understand an opposing matchup more than Arslan Ekşi, the Turkish setter for Ankara. I think he's going to be huge. When does the match start? About 35 minutes from right now. I think that's 8:30 p.m. CET, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time if you're in the Western Hemisphere, live on the YouTube channel for free. I think the link is in the description of this video. So we will wrap up the show about 15 minutes before the match starts, and we all can hop over there, and you'll get to listen to me for the duration of the match. Back to Coach Rashawn's question in the chat. Which of these teams has the best ability to turn great defensive plays into viable attack? That tends to be the deciding factor between two high-quality teams. And we talked about that a little bit 2 weeks ago on the show when I had Salvador Hidalgo on about Warshaw's ability to do that against a giant blocking team like Dynamo Moscow. And we talked about the idea of kind of the Italian style of play, or what's now becoming universal across all of volleyball, which is outside or opposite attackers, like on the wings, in out-of-system situations when they have a huge block up in front of them. A really prominent option nowadays is to roll shot the ball or tip the ball or like slap the ball softly into the top of the hands to get it back reset on their side and covered immediately. And that can right away turn a sort of less advantageous situation on offense to a more advantageous one if you can recycle that ball off the block and control it again better on the first contact. And Warsaw is really good at that. We saw it against Dynamo Moscow. They had no choice but to make that play and reset the ball against a gigantic block. And that was a big option in transition, because if they got any balls up defensively, it was likely going to be an out-of-system situation in transition. So they were able to turn some of those points into their favor, as we see Zaksa, Kedzierz, and Kozle do so well, and a lot of these elite Italian teams do so well. I think that's a strength for Warsaw in transition, but in this matchup, it's different because the block of Ziraat Bankasi is not as domineering or threatening as the block of Dynamo Moscow was. So I might see Warszawa taking some more big swings in this match in transition, especially if they can run the ball to the middles in transition. But there, I think Ankara might have a little bit of an advantage on the wings blocking, because if they're able to slow down some of the Warszawa attackers at least a little bit, then the script is flipped and they're immediately in a transition situation of their own, which is an aspect of Turkish volleyball that I think is also really prominent. So tough to pick that individual matchup, like which team is better at defense and transition attack. I think Warsaw got used to a pretty different matchup, and we'll see how quickly the two teams adjust in this one, because these are very different looking teams. It's fun that one of the reasons why Champions League is so cool is because you see really, really good teams from different countries all over Europe. And the styles of play in each league are a little bit different. You get to normalize the levels of play and the styles from different country to different country, which is one of the great parts about Champions League. So we've already seen how Warsaw handled a Russian team, but playing a Turkish team is a very different matchup, and there are strengths and weaknesses to each. So I'm excited to check those out as the match starts. Okay, questions from the chat. Is Projekt Warszawa best team in the world? Objectively, I think they are not the best team in the world, but I think they have a chance here in a really competitive pool if they win this one to make it out. And back to the standings. I think a reason why this match is so important for Warszawa in particular, if they lose this match and they start Champions League 0-2, although they'll have at least 1 point on the board from their 5-set loss last time, it is extremely difficult in the Champions League format in the fourth round to climb out of a hole when you're 0-2. You basically have to run the table and win your remaining 4 matches. And in this pool with teams of Ankara and Moscow's caliber, that is not easy to do. So I think Warszawa has a little bit more pressure on them right now. I think they'll be helped by a home crowd, which we're talking about in the chat for sure. Polish home crowd is a big deal. But I think they have more pressure on because they started Champions League off with a loss. To go over the format again really quickly, you see the 5 pools in front of you here. The winner of each pool advances right away to the quarterfinal round. The top 8 teams make it out. So there's 5 of your teams. The remaining 3 is where it gets a little bit tricky because you take the second place teams of all 5 pools and you rank them 1 through 5, and the top 3 of the 5 second place teams will make it out to the quarterfinals. So this pool B, and I think pool C, we're billing as the most competitive, at least like with 3 teams that have a really good chance of coming out of the pool and getting into the quarterfinals before the tournament. And it's definitely played out that way so far. But like we talked about Lokomotiv Novosibirsk a couple weeks ago in a very difficult pool in pool C, they did not want to start going 0-2. Otherwise, their chances of making out of pools are very difficult. Warszawa is in a similar situation here. I think the pressure is on them to win this match at home, especially if they can get a full 3 points out of it by winning in 3 or 4 sets. But if you go down 0 wins and 2 losses in your first 2 matches in the fourth round, it is extremely difficult to come back, win your remaining 4 matches, and make it out. And especially when they're going to have to play Ziraat Bankasi and Dinamo Moscow again in the return leg. So I think the pressure is on Warszawa here, and Ankara has an opportunity, if they win, to really have a significant chance of making it out of pools. And this probably the most competitive pool in the tournament so far. Going back to the chat to answer some questions. Which team do I think will win? I will get to that at the very, very end of the show. How good is Ankara in float receive? That's a good question. I think they're pretty good. They're going to see some good float serves. Peter Novakovsky and Andrei Vrona, both middle blockers for Warszawa, have pretty dangerous, like nice, low, flat float serves. And they're going to have to handle those pretty well, in addition to the guys like Superlak, Kvolek, Grabelny is a jump spin server. Angel Trinidad, the setter's got some options. So good service variety from Warszawa, but I think Ziraat Bankasi is used to that sort of thing. Playing in Turkey, they see both float and jump spin serves all the time at pretty high levels, and they're obviously doing pretty well in Turkey this season. That's a good question. I think they're going to handle themselves just fine in service reception in both varieties of serves. I think they're really going to have to run a spread out and diverse offense, though, if they can pass the ball well enough. Again, I talked about the blocking and attacking prowess of the Warszawa middles. Ankara is really going to have to pass the ball well for Arslan Ekşi to be able to run such an offense to keep those 2 very good middles, those Polish middles, off balance. Otherwise, you're going to have guys like Kameho, Atanasov, and Termat just banging balls against triple blocks all day long. And that is not a recipe for success against a team of Warszawa's caliber in block and defense. Dan. Hey, Dan. Good to see you, buddy. My usual co-host of the show. What do you think of Kameho's season so far? Guaranteed start tonight. I'm not very high on Kameho's season so far. He's actually getting up there in age. I didn't really realize how old Oriol Kameho is. He is 35. Not nearly as young as he used to be, especially for a player that's always relied on absolutely elite athleticism. I mentioned he hit negative efficiency in the match 2 weeks ago against Masejek. I think he will start, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Ziraat Bankasi go to the bench, especially if his service reception isn't quite up to par. But I think that's a strength of his game, having played in Turkey so far this season. I don't love that. I think that's a little bit of a potential Ziraat Bankasi weakness. But I do think he'll still get the start. We'll see how quickly the 2 teams go to the benches. Neither team is really prone to going to the bench that much. But we talk about all the time, the third outside hitter position is something really important in high-level volleyball. And for Ankara, that third outside hitter would likely be Benny Toenstra, the Dutch outside hitter. He's young. I think he's only, 21? Let me look that up. Yeah, Benny Toenstra is only 21, 1.95 m from the Netherlands. So if there would be an outside hitter coming off the bench, it would probably be him. We'll see if he gets in the match. There's a question. What do you think of Benny Toenstra? I think he's great. I think he's a really good young prospect, but I don't know how he will handle a situation like Champions League, especially playing on the road against a probably crazy Polish crowd. So we'll see if he has to come off the bench maybe for Kameho, and we'll see how that goes. I think that might be something we see later on in this match. Okay, just about 10 minutes before we wrap up the show. I'm still scanning through the chat for questions. Thanks everyone for getting active in the chat. We are live on the European Volleyball Show every week before the CEV Super Match of the Week. Let's talk about what's going on elsewhere around Champions League right now. Yesterday we had some really good matches. Zaksa Kozle, the reigning champions, traveled to Novosibirsk in Siberia, and they played a really competitive match. Zaksa ended up winning that match 3-1. Each of the last 2 sets went to extra points. That was super duper competitive. You can catch the replay of that on Eurovolley.tv. And like I mentioned, Novosibirsk, a very good team, got absolutely stomped by Lube Civitanova 2 weeks ago, and then losing such a close battle to Zaksa at home. Now they are 0-2 in such a tough pool. It will be very difficult for them to make it out to the quarterfinals. But Zaksa looking good, having to travel to a pretty good environment there in Russia and winning a match with full points. So nice work from the defending champs. Also, Dynamo Moscow beating Masaryk yesterday, 3-0. I think I mentioned that one. Yesterday's YouTube match was Yashevsky Vagil, last year's Polish champions. They beat Nakru Solare of Belgium yesterday, 3-0. That last set was really competitive, but a full 3 points for Yashevsky in that one. And then tomorrow, a very good match also coming on YouTube, Trentino versus Fenerbahce. I am really interested in that, especially because Trentino, as some of you may know, just flew back to Europe from Brazil. Them and Lube Civitanova both participating in the World Club Championships. Their last match was last Friday. So Lube playing today at Maribor in Slovenia, and then Trentino hosting Fenerbahce tomorrow. That's less than a week removed from some significant international travel. Jet lag might be a factor. Exhaustion might be a factor. Fatigue. And Fenerbahce is no joke. That is a very good team featuring my good friend Salvador Hidalgo Oliva and French Olympic gold medalist Yassine Louati. I'm really interested in that one to see if Fenerbahce can come to Trentino and play spoiler against the Trento team that's been definitely on quite the grind in terms of international travel and play the last couple weeks or so. So that one will be on YouTube tomorrow. Lube and Maribor are probably in action right about now. I wonder if I can get a little live score update on that one. Let's see. Yeah, so Lube is currently up 2-0 on Maribor. They're leading. They won 25-18, 25-16. They are tied at 16 all in the third. Also earlier today, Zenit St. Petersburg, they beat Novi Sad from Serbia 3-0. The Berlin Recycling Volleys beat Benfica from Portugal 3-1. So both of the top teams in Pool D with full 3-point wins. Perugia taking on Caen from France. Perugia took the first, so that's going on right now. And both of those matches that are active are live on Eurovolley.tv. So if you want to watch those, head over to that platform. But we're definitely featuring our super match of the week starting in just about 20 minutes. Projekt Warszawa taking on Ziraat Bankasi Ankara. I am scanning the chat for a couple last questions. Can you shred the guitars hanging behind you? No, I just have 4 guitars that are wall ornaments. No, I'm kidding. I like playing guitar a lot. Check me out on Instagram if you want guitar stuff. But this is a volleyball show. Dan making the point. Lube is going to be exhausted. Yeah, I agree. That's a really tough couple days of playing in Brazil on Friday, flying back to Europe, playing a Champions League match on Wednesday, 5 days later. Although I think they will be able to handle Maribor regardless. I mentioned Trentino. I think that battle will be even more difficult because Fenerbahce is really, really good. I think it's about that time, ladies and gentlemen. So I think it's about that time to pick this match. Let's switch back to this view here. Ziraat Bankasi versus Warszawa. It's difficult to pick, and it's pressure on me because I think I'm 3-0 this season so far. With let's see, who did I pick first? I picked Vakifbank to beat Monza women. I was right about that. I picked Dynamo Moscow to beat Warszawa. I was right about that. Dan, remind me in the chat who we both picked last week when we had that match on. I think it was Dynamo Moscow women versus THY. I think I might have picked THY. I might have been wrong on that one. So pressure's on me to pick this match correctly. For all the things that we already talked about, my pick is Warszawa 3-1. I have Warszawa winning in 4. I think they will be able to target Ankara in reception, and I think the advantage in the middle for Warszawa is huge. I really am high on the middle duo of Andrzej Vrona and Peter Nowakowski, especially compared to the Ziraat Bankasi middles. I think that Warszawa is a little bit more experienced against absolutely elite top tier competition. Ankara is actually Ziraat Bankasi, I believe, has never played Champions League before. No, they've played it once. Their last Champions League campaign was the 2015-16 season. So they haven't played Champions League in a while. Warszawa now in their second Champions League season in a row. I think the experience and the home crowd. I really can't say enough about Polish home fans. I'd be interested to see this same matchup in the return leg when it's played in Ankara. I think Ziraat Bankasi will have a pretty equal advantage there with their home fans. But because this match is in Poland, I'm really high on the Warszawa middle blockers. I'm high on their home crowd. I'm going to pick them to win in 4 sets. Dan picking Warszawa in 5. This is just becoming spoilers at this point because we've been pretty good about our predictions. I almost don't even want to predict this one because I am actually commentating the match, but too late. I already did. We'll see if Warszawa in 4 holds up. Tune into the match live in just about 20 minutes where we will see the result for ourselves. I'm really excited about this one. So a couple more things before we wrap up out of here. We'll be back next week for the European Volleyball Show. Next week, it will be on Thursday. The super match of the week next week is on Thursday. Women's match, let's see. Police from Poland taking on the reigning champions in Imoko Corneliano. That's Thursday. That'll be really good. That is at 6 p.m. CET. So we'll go live with the show half an hour before that one next Thursday. That match will be really good as we jump back into the women's tournament. Make sure if you want to watch every single Champions League match throughout the season, including all the elimination stage matches, quarterfinals, semifinals, and of course the super finals. The only place to watch all those matches is Eurovolley.tv. So make sure you go over to that platform and pick up a subscription to that. There's a season pass available for the entire Champions League season right now. So make sure you check that one out, especially if you want to watch the super finals later in the year, because that is the only place you will be able to watch it. Scanning the chat for any last questions before we wrap up the show. I think I got to pretty much everything. I'm really excited for this one. I think this match is going to be really competitive in one of the most competitive pools. Pool B has been really spicy so far with a lot of good battles. And I really think there are 3 teams that can make it out of there. Jeremy, get after it. Team Pineapple's watching. Shout outs to Jeremy. Thanks for watching, man. Yeah, this will be a good match. One of maybe 2 pools in the whole tournament that really has 3 teams that have a chance to make it out. Warszawa versus Ziraat Bankasi Ankara starting in just about 15 minutes. I think that's about it for the European Volleyball Show. We will wrap it up right about now. If there are no further questions, I will hop over to the commentary booth, put on the headset, and I will see you guys live for First Serve in just about 15 minutes time. The link for the match, I believe, is in the description of this video. If not, you can find it easily streaming live in just a couple minutes. We'll start with the pre-match for the match stream here live on the YouTube channel. Tell your friends you're watching. Tag us on Instagram. Find me on Instagram at rstclair1. Use the hashtag CLVolleyM for everything, just to build all the hype around men's and women's Champions League this year. And I think that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. We will see you next week on the European Volleyball Show. I'm Rob St. Clair. Enjoy the match. You will hear more from me in just a few minutes as we get closer to First Serve. Thanks very much for watching.